Okay.
Yes, you can. Okay. My guy, what's up to you?
All right. Good afternoon and welcome to everyone to this afternoon's discussion. Can we kindly close our eyes as we ask Bako to please pray for us?
Heavenly Father, may you please be with us as we're about to engage in this topic at hand. May your Holy Spirit guide our minds and our hearts and lead us to questions and answers that will help us to become developed young people within this generation we're living in, Father. May your Holy Spirit give us light and guide us within the darkness that we face in the earth, Father. And may you always be with us and bless all the efforts that we put in. May they reach the ones they need to, Father. And may you empower us, giving us the strength by the Holy Spirit, Father. We pray and ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. All right.
Yes.
At the fear of sounding redundant, Bako, please. I don't want the awkwardness of introducing myself. So kindly introduce all of us, the panel, and then we'll take it over from there. I'll then
No
do
stress.
to the discussion of today.
No stress. Afternoon, everyone. In the panel that we have today, we have Oskishu, our master guide, I would say our leader in thought processing and in our independent thinking. I seem to believe that's what she is. She'll be joining us in this topic that we have. And then over here, we have my brother, Brother Koto Hobe, also a powerful young man who will be joining us here. And yeah, that's it. I'm Bako Kole, who
All right.
I'll be here too.
All right. Thanks, Bako, for the introduction.
Sure.
The one who was introducing us is Bako Kole, as he has already said. All right. The topic of today's discussion is the role of the youth in today's socio-economic climate. I think we're trying to basically engage on how the youth can be impactful in the days that we are living in, especially when one appreciates the fact that it is the youth that are to finish the gospel. It is the youth that are the future of this church. Therefore, becomes imperative that we as the youth begin to engage on our effectiveness in today's socioeconomic climate. Yeah. Basically, that's what we'll be talking about today.
Most definitely. I think to just put it in a nutshell, as my brother has stated, focusing on our purpose in terms of the youth as a church, and also what is our role within the socioeconomic climate, especially regarding the crisis we've kind of found ourselves to be in today.
Yeah.
You know. Sure.
I think since it's my first time actually joining you, what I want to say first, thank you. And as you know, I'm not youth, but my heart is very youthful. I'm one of those people who actually believe that youth should be given opportunity. Especially in church. I think I've stood up several times where I actually have said sometimes we, the elderly, tend to be the stumbling block for the youth. I always refer to Jesus. You know, Jesus was quite young. If you look at his ministry, I mean, he did his ministry in 3 years at the age of what, 30 to 33.
30.
Yeah. So, but by the time he died, I think he was around 33. So you see that actually youth can have such a huge impact very quickly and all that. So when it comes to, especially in South Africa, about what's happening right now, South Africa faces one of those terrible problems that we have. Actually, I think they define them as 3 problems of Africa, and especially South Africa, which is inequality, poverty, and I think also unemployment. And the saddest part with the COVID-19, what it has shown to a lot of people is that our youth are unemployed. They are the hardest hit by this pandemic because they have, firstly, they were already unemployed, and now the prospect of employment is diminishing. Is actually
True.
quite small.
Yeah.
So now the question is that when we have these problems, what can youth do? Is it one of those where the youth actually wait for the elderly to think of something and do it for them? And and the other question that we need to actually try and answer is that, is the policies within South Africa allow our youth to actually participate in policy making? Because I'm one of those people, I think that you can be as hopeful as you want, but if you are not part of the policy making process, you probably will be left out. It's going to be one of those that there will be a few lucky ones who get in, and then the rest are actually random. In terms of if you go to the Bible, and I think that is one of the things that also everybody uses quite a lot, the influence that Daniel and the other Hebrew boys had on the system. Because if you look at it, it was not on the people around and dancing. It was actually they were influencing the system itself. So to see that change, actually, you need to go to the system and change the system. If you come and you talk to me very nicely and all that about the future and your hopes and all that, if the system hasn't changed, you're not going to achieve much. So for now, those are my things that I think for youth, we need to get to those things, that how do we change the system that is currently here within the church, within South African government, for youth to thrive.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate that input. I think the input hinges on something very important, that there is exclusion of youth, whether deliberately or otherwise, by adults, both in the church and in the world. I mean, you can see that in South African politics, only recently, as recent as 7 years ago, was there an introduction of a youthful voice in parliament. And we can see, I mean, whether for the good or for the bad, but we can see what the EFF has brought to South African parliament. In fact, if anything, many of us were oblivious to the work of parliament before the arrival of the EFF, which goes to say a lot about the level of impact that the youth can have when given an opportunity. And you look at even the establishment of the EFF, you see that it's very opportunistic in nature. They have seen that there is a forgotten voice in the country. People who are marginalized, people who don't have anything, is the youth, and they exploited that loophole and created a party. You know, and it's difficult when you want to really interrogate that in light of our position as Adventists, because you don't know whether it is okay for Adventist youth to be in politics or not.
Exactly.
You don't know. So you really don't know whether you know. Within this discussion, as you make mention or make reference to South African politics, you're not really sure whether are we still within the confines of the Sabbath to be talking about politics. So I think there really needs, more than anything, there needs to be an overhaul of the system, of our thinking, because if we think that Adventists exist outside the community in which we exist, then we are going to have a problem as Adventists. Because, like, for instance, I'll give you a typical example. We speak of religious liberty in the Adventist church, right? And we say everyone has the right to worship on the day in which they choose, right? But that is also enshrined in the South African Constitution. And it was not a gift. It was a result of conquest. Someone had to die for that to be made visible, to be achieved. Now, the question is, would the church have allowed its members, who are the youth, to participate in a struggle that sought to bring about religious liberty, right? So we want, as a church and as a youth, we want to be beneficiaries of a process we were not part of, and it becomes highly problematic. And we see that even in the topic that we are engaging in, to say, how do we, as an Adventist youth, become useful in the socio-economic climate that we live in today? And part of that means that you must then, your thinking must go beyond the borders of your local church, of even your denomination, which is Adventism, because beyond that, you live in a community. Now, if you are saying young people must become business people, they must become entrepreneurs, then they must be able to identify within their communities a need, and then provide a service or goods according to the need that exists.
Very true.
Maybe that's just my preface to the discussion.
It kind of took most of my thinking. I was leaning towards the entrepreneurial side, especially in regards to the unemployment issue. But just to recap on what both of you said, I think when Oskishu mentioned the Hebrew boys, they are basically what you said, what we won't allow as Adventists today. They are young people who partook in a struggle that brought about the change in policy or a system that benefited the whole church as a whole. So I guess in that regard, we do. It's just in our day and age of Adventism, we have separated ourselves from this community, But in light of the main issue that I wanted to address in terms of unemployment, I have given up hope in looking for a government or a system or a world that will offer jobs. Because when we look back, job creation was made and then people benefited from those who created those, and I believe within the many books that we have in our arsenal at church, we have books that provide innovation in terms of health, in terms of technology, in terms of psychology, in certain areas where individuals can explore and find opportunities, especially within their community, and then develop job creation and then alleviate the unemployment. I lean towards entrepreneurship more than employment because of that, and in light of the administration that we face as a country that is lacking so dearly, it makes it more difficult and more hopeless for youth to look for help to people who seem not to be interested or to seem to be so careless with the administration,
Bishop?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
I think I want to pose a question to the both of you as a bit elderly.
as young people.
Yes. The thing is that because when we talk about certain things, they are more theoretical. Like we want entrepreneurship, we want to be heard and all this kind of stuff. Now the question that needs to come is that, starting from the church, what is it that the youth expect the church to contribute or for the gap to come? Because what I've seen, especially within the Adventists, is that business people tend to be, you have an Adventist who's partnered with non-Adventist, where you find
Yeah.
that that's what happens. Most of the businesses is like that. There seems to be not that environment within the church that actually makes us open to each other to talk about these things and all that. There seems to be some sort of can I call it a religious system that is running, that we have to follow this path. If you don't follow, there is somebody who's going to sort of like clap your hanyane ka mo marakong or follow in line. So
Yeah.
now the question is, from your side, what is it that you expect from the church to say, you know what, you've given us leeway for us to start going with this program of developing ourselves?
Yeah, that's a tricky question.
Yeah.
I think if we are honest, leave the youth aspect of it. I think generally there is a trust deficit amongst Adventists. We don't trust each other. In fact, we'd rather do business with people who are not Adventists than do business with Adventists. I don't know why that is the reason, but for some strange reason, everyone who has done business with Adventists complains that at some point they've been done badly. I don't know. So there is a general trust deficit, whether it is legitimate or not, but it is there. But I think another question or another response as to why we don't do business with one another could be that we know that in our business transactions we are not honest, we are not genuine, we are dubious and bordering on criminality even in how we transact our businesses. So we want a safe distance between our righteous life and our dubious life, where we are doing business in a not so godly manner. So if you do business with a fellow Adventist, they would call you out to say, "Hey, brother,
what you're doing is wrong.
You should be bribing someone for that work that you want." So in order for us to run away from having to deal with such a discussion, we would rather not do business with fellow Adventists.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We having the same identity as when Constantine adopted Christianity. It was all on the outside, yet our deeds were very paganistic. You know, I would say personally, I think we benefit too much. Like you said, we benefit too much from something we did not fight for. And Christianity, having the name of Christianity or even Adventism, we still benefit from what it's known in the community, especially in communities where there was work done by Adventists. We benefit a lot. They say, "Oh, kemo Sabbath," or "Yes, you can trust them and do this," and you have an advantage. Yet you yourself have no conviction, or you are not turned towards the Adventist life. You know, so I think that's one of the reasons. And I think in terms of opportunity, Oskishu, as a church, we are a bit closed off, and we have separated ourselves not only from the community but the world in general. And I know the Bible says don't be a part of the world, but we're still living in it. We need to live as heavenly as we can in the meantime while we wait for our heaven, you know. And I think I usually have a perspective of looking at my own life and the benefit Adventism has given to me. Throughout my entrance from the beginning until now, I have become better in terms of providing benefit to the community than I was before. And I think that's where we not focusing on. Maybe because I was on a personal man mission. If we have a church mission that develops young people to use crafts and skills to give towards the community, then we'd have a far greater impact, especially in terms of entrepreneurship. you know, in terms of alleviating. We would be the people who are looked to for solutions in situations like this, because we know COVID-19 is a health risk, and we are supposed to be pioneers of health, you know.
Yeah.
I think if we were to just wake up and take a stand towards applying all the material we have, we would be as effective as possible.
Yeah. Look, okay, Sis Keshu, I don't know. Do you want to go first?
Oh, no, you go first and then I'll follow after you.
Okay. You know, there are two things which are on opposite spectrums that I want to engage on. The one being, you know, one of the biggest challenges that we are facing as Adventism is that our Adventism is intellectual, and it has not convicted us, right? So given an opportunity, you would be able to convince someone of how right or how right Adventism is, but that information has not convicted you and me as a person. Now, because you see, when the gospel convicts you, it does not only convict your heart and your mind, but it convicts also your head in what it is able to do and what it is able to achieve. And the fact that one of the richest conferences in Africa, which is the TOC, by the way, it's one of the richest conferences in Africa, does not have anything that it owns. There's no hospital. There's no school. If there are schools, it's maybe we're talking Orlando West School, and really is that a school owned by the collective church? No, it's not. It's a school of Orlando West Church. So the gospel has convinced us, but has not yet convicted us, because the day it convicts us, it will translate to our everyday living, right? We will know that we are to own institutes of influence, right? We are to own schools, we are to own hospitals. Ask yourself, how many medical doctors do we have in the Adventist church? Too many to even name, but we don't have a hospital, right? Because there is no collective vision of what Adventism is, right? We are all convinced that Adventism is right, but no one is convicted of Adventism, because if we were going to say, let us bring our efforts collectively to work towards the vision of what Adventism is. Because at the core of Adventism is not the placing of a tent there to preach, right? It's not a crusade, but it is owning institutions of influence. Because it is only when we own institutions of influence that we begin to make the necessary change in our communities, right? And that's the one aspect. And the second aspect I want to speak of, you mentioned Paco, issue employment and being entrepreneurs. The truth is, not everyone can be an entrepreneur.
That is true.
Right?
That
that's a fact. And we must be able, Paco is gone. We must be able to filter that into the discussion, that not everyone can be an entrepreneur. It requires a thick skin, and not everyone, by the way, not even everyone wants to be an entrepreneur.
That's true.
But it is imperative that even those who are employed, who are employees, in a utopia, they should be employed by Adventists, right? Yes. Now, what should happen
Sorry,
is...
guys.
We understand, Paco. What should happen is, although not everyone can be an entrepreneur, but in a utopia, right? Even those who choose employment must be employed by Adventists, so that the question of your faith never comes up in your place of work, right? The truth is, most of us are true to the Sabbath because our worshiping on the Sabbath has never been truly tested, right?
True.
And the question then becomes, would you be true to the Sabbath if your next paycheck depended on it, right? Would you be honest to saying, I am a Sabbath keeper, and if that means losing my income, then I'm ready for that, right? But that should not even be an issue in a world where we are effective as Adventists and we own institutions of influence, where we hire our own, where we, even when you are employed, but you are self-employed, in that your employer is one who has the same vision, same ideology, and same principles as you.
True.
Right?
True.
Now, coming to the issue of unemployment. Unemployment is a concept that does not exist in the Bible. It's a man-made concept that emerges now with the world that now is. But God's way does not have unemployment as a concept, because look at the life of Jesus. He was born. Ne? John will tell you that Christ, he was there from the foundations of the earth. Now, the sole purpose of Christ coming on earth is to be Emmanuel, a God with us, to die for humanity. And yet, this Christ who has come to die for humanity, his ministry on earth is only 3.5 years, despite having lived for 33 years on the planet. Now, what does that tell you? Where was Christ before he entered ministry? And the Bible will tell you that Christ's father was a carpenter. So Christ knew that he had a duty to his earthly responsibility before a divine calling, right? So he is a carpenter. So he's not unemployed, right? And this is the kind of thinking that we need to inculcate in our youth and in us also, that every father must transfer to their son a trade. And every mother must transfer to her girl child a trade, right? So that what the child then becomes is the choice of the child. But there is a primary thing that you are able to do. If your father makes shoes, you should be able to make shoes. If you choose to become a doctor, that is well and fine. But you must be a doctor that can make shoes. So that if you cannot be employed as a doctor, you make shoes. Now, if we are going to live adopt the economy of the world that says people must go to school, and then, by the way, I'm not saying people must not go to school, must go to school, right? And concepts that are abstract, by the way, most of them, abstract to the communities in which they exist, right? You become a psychologist or a psychotherapist in a community of Black people, which subscribes to a different sense of ideology when dealing with emotional things, right? So you are becoming a psychologist in a Black community that does not believe in psychology. Whether the problem begins. But when you have a trade, let me give a typical example. Today we have seen the economy of Zimbabwe collapse, right? When the economy of Zimbabwe collapsed and everyone went poor and no one had anything to live and inflation was on the rise, Who survived?
The ones with the trade.
It's people with a trade. What did they do? They scattered into the world. They came to South Africa, others Botswana, Swaziland, others went overseas because of a trade. So the gospel must convict our hearts, must convict our minds, it must also convict our heads.
No,
that's
true.
my comment.
Before you get those questions, we should watch time, né?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think from my side, there are a couple of things that I want to say. I think one of those on certain portions, especially in terms of trade. I think there was a study that was done a couple of years by somebody somewhere, and they showed that actually in the next few years, we will be short of artisans, plumbers, those jobs that we feel they are beneath us. And I think for South Africa, what has happened is that I think it's more, especially for us Black people, it's more because of the inequality that is here and being closed out of the economy. So we saw certain kind of jobs actually get you the cars quickly, the houses quickly, and there are certain jobs that look like I don't really have to work much. I'm working with a pen. So those are the things that we all gravitate to. Even entrepreneurship in itself, you find that it is quite difficult because it means you have to work. You really have to work. You really have to work hard. I'll use myself as an example that, you know what I'm thinking, look, I need to start some sort of a business and hopefully make money so that I can have a lasting legacy for my children, so that they don't have to go through the whole process that I went to. But I found out that actually it requires a lot of work. For an introvert like me, it requires me now to go out and start talking to people and getting connections and all that. And immediately when I see that, it's like, oh no, I go back. I sit, and that's why in my process, I'm still in the process of trying to get there, because it's actually a lot of work. And I think that's one of the things that people who want to be entrepreneurs, they don't understand that it actually is a lot of work before things start working out. For youth, I think it's in your hands to actually start pushing the boundary. You don't have to be be like a terrorist or too radical and all that, but it's within the youth hands to start pushing certain things, saying that we want to be heard. I mean, I think in terms of the economy, the youth have a power to say, you know what, we have some project that we believe that they will help with the economy push, because the truth is that there's going to be resistance. That's why even when you start business, somebody's going to resist. And as long as you don't push, you will end up where you are. As a church, our purpose, of course, is to serve God, but also is to serve each other. And that's one of the things that I think as Adventists, we tend to fail a little bit. We are not supporting each other emotionally. The people are going through terrible things at this current moment in time. I mean, there's gender-based violence and all those kind of stuff within the church. And it becomes very difficult for me as a person to go to the church. So it automatically says that there's a link that is broken somewhere. We are unable to serve each other. So if we're unable to serve each other, we won't be able to serve the world. And that's why Christ says, you go, I've given you this power, I've given you this gift, go and serve the world. How do you do that if you can't even serve your brother? That's the thing. So I think it is the role of a church as a whole, but I think the youth can play a very big part of it in terms of ensuring that as a church, we start saving each other. We start actually, there were these things that were called wheels on meals. They don't happen anymore. There were projects where we had crashes. They don't happen anymore. It's very few places where you have such things. We don't have actually projects where we teach other youth to sew, to be carpenters, to be plumbers, to be all that, and they're sitting at home. we are sitting at home. It's not that most of us are sitting at home, so we can go and say, we are going to start these things. And I think it's about time that reality be told to the truth, to the youth. Life is tough. If you don't stand up, it's going to be very difficult to get certain things. I always come to myself. I always use myself an example in terms of how things actually turned out compared to how I wish them to turn out. And I saw there are some instances where I could have actually played a big role in setting the direction. Of course, unless if there was apartheid, I was not going to be a working black woman. But certain things, some people sacrificed for me to be able to do that. And I think with the example that was used by the EFF, that they pushed. So as a youth, we need to start pushing, and not fighting as such, but pushing for the right cause. And that cause is, we want economic development. We want actually Christian development. Even Christian development, if you listen to our debates nowadays in church, you'll find that a lot of you sometimes go out because they don't believe in certain things, or they are not interested in certain things. But some of the topics actually are topics that they should be tackling. So we have to push. We have to push as the youth, and unless we push, we are never going to get, the NDP goals, where they actually say we are going to eradicate inequality, poverty, unemployment by 2030. It is definitely not going to happen, because we have let the older generation to actually dictate certain things for us, but also we are not pushing enough and saying, look, I am Keshu, I am not working, but I have this trade. I am going to start building whatever I'm building and try and sell it. Who knows, one day you might get somebody who say, oh no, actually we want to invest in this thing. And the minute they invest, the economy grows. Those kind of things. And unfortunately, one of the dangers that we don't see, we're importing quite a lot of things. Even things that you can make, we import. So we end up having, we end up having places like China taking over Africa as a whole, not South Africa, Africa as a whole. Why? Because we've been sitting down and we're not pushing back. So it's about time the youth, because remember, the people who conquer the world are the youth. If you look at most of the people who conquered the world, who started the revolution, are the youth. So we as the youth, or you as a youth, you need to take that stand.
It's okay to lose weight.
Yeah. I think if we can just have a round of closing remarks, and we close off the topic. Is that fine?
Yes. For me,
we can do that, but it's fine. As Siskishu is speaking, I'm trying to think, man. We need to come to a point as a church where we are able to industrialize our churches, right? And make them functional spaces for 7 days and not for the 7th day. Maybe let me repeat that.
Yeah.
We need to industrialize our churches and make our places of worship to be functional for 7 days and not for the 7th day. For as long as we think the church is a place we go to on Sabbath, then we are not going anywhere. We need to begin to industrialize our churches. Basic thing that we need to do. We need to convert our churches. Throughout the week, there must be early childhood development centers, right? We really need to do that as a sense of emergency, because one of the things that I will applaud the Catholic Church of is that they don't have crusades, right? They don't have crusades. what they do is they come and build a facility, like a church, and they build other facilities. And then their other facilities become a feeder to the church. So people are not converted into the faith through common preaching, but they are converted to the faith by the acts of the church. And that's what we must begin to do. Once we are of our church becomes of service to our communities, people will come to a church because the church is solution-based. Like it or not, the ZCC church is the biggest church in Africa because it is solution-based. Because people feel they find solutions to their problems when they go there. And I think we really need to begin to do that. It's rather painful that we are having this discussion against the backdrop of a divided conference. And our conference, by the way, is divided along issues that we are talking about right now, socioeconomic issues, because at the heart of our plight is the development of a black church. Fundamentally, that is what we are about in Alberton, and that is at the heart of socioeconomic issues. Now, if you have a church that does not see the importance of property development and property ownership, how then do you begin to even discuss socioeconomic challenges of the youth? So I think it dawns on me and becomes very, very emotional as an Adventist youth in the TOC that maybe we are getting ahead of ourselves in this discussion, because there are primary issues that need to be dealt with that are at the center of why we are not developing as a church. I think it's a rather sad note, but it is true, and it just dawned on me now to say, hey, maybe we are getting ahead of ourselves in this discussion, and there are primary issues that speak to identity of ourselves as a black church, and an honest desire to develop and to become a better version of ourselves. That's my contribution.
I hear you, my leader.
Okay, as a parting note, I think as a church and even the youth, I think we have dreams. We have dreams, and we plan, but without putting a date to most of the things. We know that, you know what, yes, I think we need to start challenging ourselves and say, you know what, by this day, we will have a crash in my church. Because the minute you do that and you put somebody who will be actually tracking progress, then something starts happening. Sometimes you might not actually succeed in getting there, but you'll find that you have mobilized interest and mobilize people, and you are almost there. So, and then it needs the next step and all that. So if you look in terms of our church, we normally have rosters of who's going to be doing what, whatever the case might be. And because that is there and there's a date there, you are compelled. You have no choice. If you can't do it, you find somebody else to do it for you. So I think in terms of things like property ownership, we need to start putting days in days. Like we as this church, we might be poor, whatever the case. Who knows? We might build it with our own hands. We say we want a structure by this day. We want to actually have a truck that is going around the community, feeding the people. Or we want to have people who are actually going into houses, actually counseling, if there's a need for counseling in that community. We want to give the school, our neighboring school, at the beginning of the year, we are going to contribute 10 pairs of shoes. It might not be something big, but it makes a huge difference to one person. And I always say that, you made a difference to one person, and that person will go out and make a difference to somebody else. So I think as the youth and also as a church, let's start putting dates to our dreams, to our plans. And of course, we have a God who's faithful. Because I think when things are good, and it's for our goodness, and it's for the goodness of the community and the church and the world, there is no way God will not provide us the strength to be able to do that. So I think it's about time we stop dreaming and start putting dates on things, and then we start achieving those. And I tell you, even the youth who are unemployed, because they know on this church we are supposed to be building this. For those 6 months, they will be getting a skill, maybe bricklaying or whatever the case, and tomorrow they are able to go out and start providing for themselves.
Very true. Very true. No, thank you. I think my only remarks, going back to what you said, we need to be influencers or be in positions of influence, as you said, Koto. By attaining that goal and having the right policies that can govern us within the church as its members, as its people, we can find solutions and be able to function in a manner that won't allow to distrust or any other trivial matters that lead us to where we are now. You know what I mean? I believe the first aim is to get in a position to make a difference. While we are still waiting for people to make a difference, we will suffer the non-action that is taking place. That's what we'll suffer. But at least if we put in efforts to make a difference or be the people that make a difference, it'll add towards the goals that we want. And we can do it. We have the knowledge, we have the intellect, the skills, the people. You know, I believe I've always had this discussion with one of our members saying we might be suffering from generational curse, but when you look at it, generational curse is just giving down bad behaviors or bad habits to the next generation, of which they can be broken. You know what I mean? We need to be the generation that breaks those behaviors and habits that lead us to this no way place that we're at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a big topic to even cover in a single sitting.
Yeah.
You know,
I was actually thinking that you know, it's almost impossible to do justice to the topic in such a short piece of time. Yeah. You would probably need a conference of some sort.
Yes, definitely.
To really deliberate on these issues. But maybe that gives us an opportunity to ventilate these issues in all other programs of the youth that will follow, whether by conference or by the district or even our local churches. Maybe that we must then begin to ventilate these issues in those platforms. And, you know, Ms. Keshu asked a question earlier that I deliberately did not want to answer, to say, what do we think the church can do for us as the youth, for us to start start solving problems in our community, socioeconomic problems. I didn't want to answer it because I think whilst as a youth we often scream that we are not given the opportunity, we are not given the space to exist and showcase our talents and so on and so forth. I think we have not done enough to prove that we want that space. And as a result, the adults are not trusting because they understand maybe that what's at stake. They know they've worked hard for this gospel. They've worked hard to build these churches. So it, you know, ho rekile koloi awe fe man le mang Yes, and I know and appreciate the fact that the church is God's church. However, we can't divorce the fact that there is a sentimental attachment that people have to the church in terms of personal ownership. So I think we as a youth need to do more to prove that we are ready. One, to hold leadership. Yeah. But I think haona motswadi a ka ganellang ngwana gore a dire a bona gore ngwana ka nnete o nyaka o dira. I don't think that could be the case. So I think as a form of self-critic, I think we have not done enough as the youth to prove that we want to be part of this church. Many of us, by the way, are permanent visitors in our churches, in that even our membership is not in our churches. We are not even baptized. So while we cry foul that we want to be given the space, you have not even registered your membership to say, I want to be part of you, but you are screaming that you're not given an opportunity. Maybe we need to, as a youth, do right so that the elderly can see that we have a group of young people who can take this church forward.
True. No, I think we have tried to cover as much as we can of the matter.
Yeah.
Hopefully those who will be listening will get an idea or even an inspiration to continue in this discussion, and we can mobilize a type of movement that will lead to our betterment. But I thank you both for joining into this discussion. May God continue to bless you.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Oskishu, if you don't mind. Yes.
Kopa o lebohela nako re fileng yona gore o kgone ho discussa this topic. Ke a kopa rona, let it be not another topic e leng gore e fela. Let be a topic e leng gore at the end of the day actions will be taken a lot, and then we start seeing the difference amongst our youth, amongst our elderly, and within the church itself. We are supposed to be the people who actually go to the world and show who God is. Dear Lord, use us as instruments so that the world can know who you are. What's happening now in terms of COVID-19, dear Lord, please protect us, protect everybody, dear Lord. Please show your hand and show who you are a true God. Show the world that you are here. We should not be afraid of what's happening around us because we have you as our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
All right.
So